Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Sweet Little Jackie.
Why did you get the suite?
Have you seen me? Welcome back.
Welcome back. Okay, so joining us in studio, as we mentioned before, is Jessica Gottlieb from Word of Mouth Women, and you're immediately my BF here. And then via phone, who I'm sure will be my best friend too, from TakePart.com, we have Liz Dwyer on the line. Are you there, Liz?
Good morning, Liz.
I'm here. So nice to talk to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you too.
Thanks for joining us. So you've been very vocal, as has Jessica, about what's going on in Baltimore. And I mean, as of this morning, those 6 officers are being charged.
Yes, I think it's a welcome step towards justice being served, which I think is what people who have been protesting on the ground have been asking for and wanting. And so I think that's probably a real relief to people who are living in that community, as well as the folks nationally who have been watching the situation.
Yeah, well, we also know, though, that just because you're charged does not mean that it will end with the result that everybody wants. But I do agree with you that it is a step in the right direction. What do you think? What do you think forced that? Do you think the pressure of the rioters or the national headlines about it? What do you think forced the police department and the district attorney's office to move so quickly?
I think actually it was probably the evidence in the case. One, the knife that Freddie Gray was holding was, which was initially what he was arrested for, was shown to not be, a switchblade. It was shown to be within the legal length. And I think the growing amount of evidence and questions around the case in terms of what happened to him, if you look at it from like a legal standpoint, that there was cause for arrest. At the same time, though, you can't deny that the people asking for justice to be done, or at least for the process, and I think that's what people want. Whether it ends in a conviction or not, I think what people really want is to see the process of justice play out. And perhaps the delay in that, I think, really exacerbated the situation on the ground of people who are living in poverty. Many of them are, and have dealt with what may be perceived by some as police brutality. I think that really makes a difference.
Yeah, I just wonder. It worries me that we support the type of reaction. I don't know if it supports the right word, but the rioting that ensued, and people calling the kids, whoever it was, thugs, and people getting mad that we're calling them thugs. And I mean, I'm not a fan of rioting. I don't understand how we want to burn our cities and attack each other and loot. And then in the eyes of justice, that to me flies in the face of what seems reasonable.
Well, I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
So they did less damage than than college kids do after the Final Four every year. And I don't know that I would even call it rioting. I don't know that there was. I don't love that term, because there were more people on the streets busy not rioting than rioting. There were cameras on rioting, though.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Where does the media fit in all of this? And I mean, there are thousands of people peacefully protesting.
Tens of thousands of people. And there was some really interesting footage of one of the community organizers talking to Geraldo, and saying, what, you need to get out of here with that camera, in front of the burning stuff. Where are you, when we need help with the streets and the bridges and the schools, and they're not in Baltimore to cover what caused all of this.
Right. Well, we're not usually in cities where things are peaceful. I mean, we are.
Well,
we're
they
out
haven't
there.
been
problem. They didn't get
there.
attention being peaceful.
Right. But there was also a row of, I shared this with you, Jackie, the picture of all of the civilians that were standing in front of the police officers, and I was had tears in my eyes, or the little boy that was trying to give water to the police. I really loved that. That sentiment. I think that really demonstrates the kind of community and public that we should be. But we highlight the violence and the fires and the looting and the guy running around with toilet paper in his hands and
Liz,
the woman.
Liz, what are your thoughts on the media and their role in this? I mean, do they take responsibility for some of this?
Well, it's interesting. At Take Part, we have shown both protesters and really shown what is going on the ground. but not so much that our goal isn't to sensationalize what's going on. It's not a, if it leads sort of situation. We're actually trying to, I think, build empathy and understanding for what people on the ground may be going from. What is it like to, live in a community where only 42% of residents are employed, right? Or, what is it like to, live in a community where, 33% of residential properties are vacant or abandoned, and where, like Freddie Gray's family have filed lawsuits because of lead paint in their buildings and slumlords that wouldn't do anything about that. So actually painting a picture to help people understand that, if folks are angry, because one of the residents of their community was arrested for having a legal-sized knife, and thrown into a police van, and then, his spine is 80% severed, a few minutes later, and what happens with that, that's important. But we've also tried to tell the stories of the solutions, because we really try to help our community of readers understand that you're not just a passive consumer of news, right? So telling the stories of, for example, a teacher, Kat Locke, in Baltimore, who did a project which was spurred by one of her students, where he was disturbed by Black youth being called thugs on television, right?
Liz, we're gonna take a break. Hold that thought. We're gonna come right back in just a minute. Welcome back to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. As he said, the most riveting hour of radio.
Or at least 35 minutes so far.
Yeah. So joining us today from Word of Mouth Women, Jessica Gottlieb is here in the studio, and we still have from TakePart.com, Liz Dwyer on the phone. So let's talk about that mom a little bit. Everyone has seen the video at this point. She goes down there. She says she got eye contact with her son, who was wearing...
Yeah, I wonder how she could find him beneath the mask.
Well, you know your kid.
You know your kid.
You know your kid.
They're shifty.
And she, went to town. She slapped him around and dragged him out of there. So, some people think she's Mother of the Year. Even on our Facebook, people are really divided on this topic. What do you think, Liz?
I empathize with her, because, being in that situation and being afraid that as she said, that her only son is going to turn into the next Freddie Gray, that's a scary feeling. But at the same time, I think the constant replay of her beating him and cursing him on TV sends a subtle message that the real problem in this situation is Black children's behavior. So if, only Freddie Gray hadn't run, if only his parents had beaten him enough so that he, maybe didn't carry a knife around, then maybe everything would be all right. And I think that actually really lets our systems of inequality off the hook, instead of, talking about what's actually going on with, education, unemployment, food deserts, militarized police forces. The focus turns on, if those Black moms would just step up and beat their kids more, everything would be all right. And I think that's a mistake.
And there was a certain, what I was seeing, almost like a blood sport in it. And that was what really upset me on Facebook, was everybody was like, don't mess with this mama. And, I don't want to watch teenage boys get hit by anybody. Right. I don't. I don't want to watch a mother's worst moment. I don't want to watch that kid's worst moment. Right. I don't find that entertaining. I don't think that that's great parenting. I'm not saying that she's not a good mother. I'm not saying she's not a good mother or a bad mother, but I'm not saying that we're going to hold up this moment where she just lost it on her kid, which maybe I would do too, and say that this is Mother of the Year.
Yeah, I think I in my other life, I am a counselor for teenagers, and I'm a mandated reporter. And so I have this moment of like, oh, get your kid out of there. And I'm like, oh my God, why are you beating the crap out of him? And then we're celebrating it and saying we should have more parents like this. And I'm thinking, I was really struggling, because she didn't just slap him once. She went to town. He was wincing. I mean, and I'm thinking, why was he there to begin with? I was having a hard time with that. Like, what's going on?
Because he's a teenage boy, though, and teenage boys make choices.
But he was in a hoodie, covered up, all black.
You know
what? That's intentional. That's not just like walking by and, hey, what's this? This is like I joined.
But for us to pretend to understand why he was there, when his friends were there, when he wanted to be heard, I mean, I understand, or I can at least be, empathic to or empathetic to his feelings, and at the same time, the mother, she has 6 children, and she's trying to do her best, and I don't know what she does before then, or after then, or any of it, but if I imagine my child putting themselves in this danger and knowing that he could end up dead in that very minute, I don't know that I wouldn't go and just lose it. Right. And just whatever you have to do to get that child out of there, like the wrath of me is way better than my burying my son.
You can understand that, and I think there's a long history in America of, if as a black person you step out of line, you're going to put yourself in danger. From Emmett Till down to Trayvon Martin, who actually wasn't doing anything wrong. He's just walking home with a pack of Skittles and a can of iced tea. And I think this is where it gets really tricky because there are black parents who are increasingly having to have the talk, where you have to have, list out for your child the survival tips, or when you are, going about your daily life where you're having an encounter with law enforcement, right? Don't put your hands in your pockets, all of those sort of things. But what we have found is that you could have a spotless, completely sterling reputation in America. You could be Cornel West and still end up with police thinking that you're breaking into your own home, right? And so, again, the media replaying this instance, making her a hero. I found myself asking a question about, what about all the other moms who are out there who are, taking their kids to the peaceful protests, who've been speaking against, food injustice, who've been, against violence and looting, who've been organizing to ensure that there are equitable schools in that community. Make them Mother of the Year.
Absolutely. It's such a great point. I mean, there's so many people out there, and I don't think that, Toya Graham put herself up there on that pedestal as Mother of the Year.
She had no idea.
I think she was looking out for her kid, and that's what Jessica's point is, too. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Liz Dwyer from TakePart.com, and also you can follow Liz at Los Angelista on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us.
And
glad to be here.
Thank you, Liz. Coming up, we have something. If you have something on your mind, please call us. We are at 661-298-5487. It's our Broad-Minded. And Jessica, you were sticking around for us, right?
Anything and everything goes when it's broad-minded, so give us a call.
Yeah. We'll be right back.